Hello there, little fairy tale friends, and a warm welcome to another bedtime story here on SoundTales. My name is Fina, and now it's time for us to rest together. But first, let's take a few deep breaths. And as you breathe in, I want you to imagine you're smelling a beautiful flower that smells oh so good. And as you breathe out, I want you to pretend that you're blowing out a candle. And with each breath, your body will feel heavier and sink deeper into the mattress. Okay, let's begin. Inhale through your nose, smell the flower. Hold it for a moment and blow out the candle. Good. One more time. Inhale and smell the flower. Hold and exhale. Excellent. And now I want you to give yourself a big squeeze. I'm going to do the same right here, and wrap your arms around your body and hug yourself as tight as you can and tense your legs and your feet. Oh, come on, do it. Oh, and let it go. Good. Let your body sink even deeper down. Well done. And now that your body is ready to rest, it's time to open your ears for a story. A story about vanity. That means caring too much about what you look like. And fear. About truths being whispered softly. And about finding the courage to say out loud what no one else dares to. This is Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Emperor's New Clothes. Once upon a time, there was an emperor who lived in a grand palace in a kingdom where everyone knew their place. And the emperor, he knew his, and his place was above everyone else. He didn't care much for wars or laws, or for helping the poor, or protecting his people. No, what filled his mind morning and night was his clothing. He had an outfit for every hour of the day, and everyone at court knew that if the emperor was missing, they'd find him in front of a mirror. Every day new fabrics arrived from distant lands, silk from the east, velvet from the south, lace, sequins, and pearls. The emperor adored everything that shimmered, sparkled, and shone. But most of all, he loved being admired. And what he feared, more than anything, was being thought of as foolish, dumb, unintelligent. Because if one person thought that, maybe others would too. And if enough people did, what would happen to his power? One day, two strangers arrived in the city. They called themselves weavers and claimed that they could create the most magnificent fabric the world had ever seen. Not only was it beautiful, it was magical too. The cloth would be invisible to anyone who was foolish or unworthy of their place in society. The emperor heard the rumor that same evening, and his eyes widened.
A gorgeous fabric that also reveals idiots. The weavers must come to the palace at once.
And so they did. The weavers told the emperor how rare and expensive their cloth was, and that only made the emperor want it more. They were given a beautiful room in the palace and 2 looms. The weavers refused all regular thread and fabric. They claimed they would create everything themselves. Invisible thread, invisible cloth. But of course, they didn't place a single thread in the looms. Instead, they pretended to work day after day while secretly fooling both the court and the emperor himself. They were incredibly careful. They knew exactly what they were doing. With quiet voices and confident movements, they wove their illusion, thread by thread. After a few days, the emperor grew curious, but he didn't dare go in first. What if he couldn't see the fabric? Then everyone would know he was a fool. So he sent his oldest minister, a wise and honorable man, but just like the emperor, he was terrified of seeming stupid. The minister entered the room, looked at the empty looms, and felt the stab of panic. He stared. Nothing. But, of course, he pretended.
Oh, it's lovely. So light, so elegant,
he exclaimed. The weavers nodded proudly and pointed into the air.
You see how the patterns shift in the light,
said one.
And the colors, so regal, so rare,
said the other. The minister swallowed hard and nodded.
The emperor is going to love it,
he said. And so it continued. One after another, members of the court came to inspect the fabric. No one saw a thing, and no one dared say a word about it. But outside the palace, something began to stir. Low voices, whispers in alleyways. People leaned in close and said,
"Have you seen it?"
They say you can only see it if you're wise.
And clever. Otherwise, it's completely invisible.
At last, the emperor went himself. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted so badly to see the cloth, to prove just how clever and wise he truly was. But in front of him, there was only air. Empty looms, no threads, no colors, no patterns, nothing. For a moment, panic took a hold of him. But then he smiled.
Yes, exquisite, truly royal.
The weavers bowed deeply and asked if they might begin sewing the robe.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. I wish to wear it at the grand parade,
the emperor replied. So they began pretending to sew. They cut into air, held up invisible cloth, and asked for more jewels to decorate the embroidery. And when the big day came, they dressed the emperor in nothing but air.
Oh, it fits like a glove,
said one.
So slender, so stately,
said the other. The courtiers nodded, but glanced nervously at one another. Everyone knew, but no one dared admit they were a fool. The emperor stood alone in front of the mirror. His naked body. No cloth, no crown, only his own reflection, fragile as a secret. He stared for a long time. Maybe if he pretended hard enough, it would become true. And maybe if everyone else believed in it, he could too. Because if he said it out loud, that he saw nothing, what would be left of him? So he lifted up his chin, straightened his back, and stepped out onto the streets. And at the very same moment that the emperor made his grand entrance through the streets and squares, the weavers slipped out of the palace and vanished. They left no trace behind, only empty looms and an emperor in nothing but his skin standing before his people. And in their pockets, they had the jewels meant for the embroidery, and gold, paid for a fabric that never existed. They were never seen in the kingdom again. But outside, the people had gathered. The streets were full of people eager to see the emperor's new clothes. Trumpets blared, drums rolled, and at the very front stood courtiers with shiny shoes and stiff smiles. When the emperor appeared, completely naked, mind you, though everyone pretended to see clothes, some people began to clap.
Oh, what a magnificent robe!
So elegant! We've never seen anything like it.
But something hung in the air, like a hush, like a pressure behind the forehead, as if the whole city was holding its breath. At the very front of the crowd stood a child. She held her mother's hand tightly, but stared straight at the emperor. The child squinted.
Mama? Mama, why isn't he wearing any clothes?
The child whispered. The mother's eyes widened nervously, but she said nothing. She kept looking straight ahead, cheeks tense, thinking, "No one heard that, I hope." The child tugged at her sleeve again.
Mama, why doesn't he have any clothes?
Still no answer from the mother, who figured that her child would be quiet if she ignored her question. But instead, the child raised her voice, thinking maybe Mama didn't hear her.
Mama, why isn't he wearing any clothes?
And that's when the spell that seemed to have rested over the kingdom broke. Whispers began.
What did she say? The child? What did the child say?
A giggle, a sharp breath, and then...
She's right! He's naked!
shouted an old man.
There are no clothes!
Someone else cried. And then the bubble burst. Laughter began to rise. First hesitantly, then stronger. Like a wave through the city, it rolled between buildings, bounced across the square. A laughter that was both relief and rebellion. Liberating. Dangerous. The emperor froze. His cheeks flushed red. But he gave the crowd a stiff nod, lifted up his chin again, and kept walking, back straight, step by step, as if nothing had happened. The court followed silently behind him. And so he walked, naked in the wind, with his court behind him. Everyone knew. Everyone saw. And now, everyone dared to speak up. All thanks to a child. And after that day, it became harder to lie in the emperor's kingdom. More people began to listen inward. More people dared to question and trust themselves and their own eyes. And when something felt wrong, there was always someone who whispered, "Hey, the emperor isn't wearing any clothes." The end. And so ends the story about the emperor and his new clothes. Or maybe we should say, no clothes at all. Funny, isn't it? Sometimes the whole world pretends. Everyone plays along, just so that they won't seem silly or be called names. But all it takes is one small voice, one that dares to say what everyone else is thinking, because the truth feels louder than the fear. Maybe you felt that too sometimes, that something doesn't feel right, and no one else is saying a word. But you know what? Your voice matters. Your thoughts are important. And telling the truth, even if your voice trembles, might be the bravest thing you can do. So thank you for listening to my bedtime story today, little fairy tale friends. And remember, bravery doesn't always sound loud. Sometimes it's just a whisper. Hey, the emperor is naked. Welcome back to another story soon again, right here on SoundTales. Sleep tight.